Football is back. Last night was the NFL season opener. We got a little taste of what we can expect this season amidst all of the craziness. And we know this weekend going to be an exciting one on Sunday. Tons of games all day long. Stephen A. and Max, I know both of you spoke. Very excited for this game. The Bucs and the Saints going at it. So, Stephen A., let me start with you. What do you expect from Brady this season in Tampa?
Well, what I expect is for him to have an MVP caliber season. I expect him to throw for over 4,500 yards, to throw for over 30 touchdowns, to lead the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the postseason for the first time since 2007, albeit as a wild card, not necessarily a division winner. I expect him to make that kind of noise and to have that kind of impact, and I expect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be one of the top 3 offenses in the entire NFL. Those are my expectations because Tom Brady is there, and unlike Jameis Winston, he will not be throwing 30 interceptions a season and giving up 112 points on his own, making a run for Defensive Player of the Year. He will go about the business of making sure to keep the turnovers as a minimum, which is going to help the team.
Doing it all?
I mean, Tom Brady going for over 4,500 yards. It's not possible with that offense for anyone to throw fewer than 4,500 yards. Jameis Winston went for over 5,000 yards last year, led the league. Of course, he also had those 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions and 112 points off those picks. Now, Tom Brady will definitely cut down on the interceptions. I also suspect he won't have as many yards as Jameis Winston. I also suspect the Bucs will have success. We agree. They can win a wild card berth. They have an embarrassment of riches on that team. And the whole thing was with Jameis, just don't mess this up. They didn't even need a dynamic quarterback. Just a quarterback who wouldn't mess it up, and he messed it up. He, throwing downfield, yeah, he picked up yards, but he also gave the other team a lot of points, as we know. Brady will fix that, so you expect him to be a couple games better at least, and that will probably lead to a playoff berth. But an MVP season, I don't think so. Not only is Brady as old as any quarterback's ever been, who we've ever given thought to as maybe he can still be a Pro Bowl caliber player, maybe, but he hasn't been that in the last couple of years. Certainly not last year. And even when he won the Super Bowl the year before, it was the lowest scoring Super Bowl in the history of the NFL. And that was in a big time passing era where you can't breathe on the quarterback or you're penalized. So Tom Brady, I expect another drop-off year over year. I do expect that to be largely masked by the weapons he has, but Stephen A., not to the point where he's in the MVP conversation, especially not in an offseason where you couldn't get the practice in that you would normally get. You had no preseason, and there's no continuity now. He's not playing for Belichick anymore where he's been for the last 20 years. I don't expect an MVP caliber season.
Well, I'm looking at it from the standpoint that other people didn't get an opportunity to prepare to go against him. How about that? The fact of the matter is he has an embarrassment of riches, to use your words, and Evans and Godwin and Howard and Gronk and Braid and Fournette and Shady McCoy. You've got an embarrassment of riches. We get all of that. But you also have his experience, his championship hardware, the impact that he ultimately is going to have on the players if he hasn't already, because they know he knows what the hell he's talking about. And you've got that as opposed to individuals that have not been practicing, didn't have preseason games, weren't able to prepare to the degree that they wanted to or usually do because of the pandemic. I think that works in favor of Tom Brady, not against him.
Well, I would say this. Even if Tom Brady is the exception that proves the rule, like he has been exceptional late in his career in terms of how he's performed at this late an age with this many miles on him already, even if that's the case, Stephen A., every year that you're over, let's say, 38, 39, 40, the difference between 40 and 41, it's not like 30 and 31. And we're into uncharted territory because very few, if any, have ever continued to play even on this level at age 42, 43. But the assumption should be, even for Tom Brady, that every year on this side of the mountain, on this side of the hill, going down is a big year. It's not like when you're 27, you turn 28, there's going to be a precipitous fall off, as there has been now 2 seasons year over year. So this kind of very optimistic projection, because he has all the weapons, it is a good experiment. We now have Cam, who is multidimensional, but in a new system, coming off an injury in New England. we're going to see how he does with those weapons that everyone lamented Brady didn't have, right? Because if Cam makes hay with that, well, then that's on Brady for not being able to do it. And on the flip side, here's Brady with all
it's how
these
he makes
guys.
hay.
You bring up O.J. How people forget. What's that?
It's how he makes hay. In other words, if Cam Newton makes hay by running the football effectively, and he, along with James White and Sony Michel, give New England the #1 run. I'm saying if he gives New England the #1 running tech, if he still does what he normally did outside of the year with Norv Turner, that he completed 67% of his passes. Outside of that, there were 2 seasons where he completed right at 60%, and all the other years were obviously lower than that. If he does that, but he runs the football effectively, that's still different than Brady. Brady might need to be with a team with weapons because he can't run. Cam Newton might need to run because he's not necessarily an exceptional thrower of the football, at least not in the past. He could be this year. We'll see.
Fortunately, we're going to be able to see it from both sides if they could actually complete this season, right? Because Brady has all the weapons. You bring up O.J. Howard. Do people remember what we were talking about when this guy got out of college? And he's not the only tight end they have, and we don't even think about the tight ends on that team. And they brought in Gronkowski. He has everything a quarterback can want. So we'll see what he can do with that. And Brady? Oh, man, that's ridiculous. And then they even got a running game now because they keep bringing in at least name brand running backs, if not elite running backs still. The point is he's got all that. So not only can we see what can he do with that, but we can also see what a more dynamic quarterback can do without the so-called weapons. This is a perfect experiment right now.
Well, let's talk about what Tom Brady can do. Stephen A., I know that you have all the faith in the world in him as the quarterback of the Bucs. So I won't ask you if they're going to make the playoffs. I'm going to ask you how far will they go in the playoffs?
I think they can go to the Super Bowl. That's where I'm at with it right now. I think that they got a chance to go to the Super Bowl. So I'm expecting them to at least be in an NFC title game, possibly a 50-50 shot at the Super Bowl. That's where I'm at with it.
I think if they're allowing fans in the stands for the Super Bowl and we can actually get to play a Super Bowl, I think it's possible that the Bucs can attend the Super Bowl too, Stephen A. It's not impossible if they so choose, depending on how many fans they let in and if they can get tickets, sure.
Who are your favorites in the NFC, Max?
Mr. Ravine, you know, it's not a cliff, it's a ravine. Mr. Ravine, okay.
That's right.
All right.
It looked like a cliff from where I was standing. When I got closer, it turned out it was just a ravine. I think I like the Seahawks in the NFC. I think that there are a couple teams that you could mention, including the Saints. But I think Seattle is due now. Russell Wilson is playing at historically great levels consistently now for several years. You know, he elevated from, is he just a good quarterback who's on a great defensive team and he's kind of riding that? No, he's a legitimate all-time great quarterback in his prime. And with the ascension of DJ Metcalf, who I expect to be better than last year, where he was already quite good. Remember what we were all saying about Metcalf coming out? It was like, boy, he looks the part, but do the numbers in college justify the way he looks? And even if you talk to him, the way he sounds and the way he carries himself and approaches his work, yes, he checks it all. I expect him to be a beast. I think Seattle, Jamal Anderson, they have added, Jamal Adams rather, they have added an elite defensive piece to an improved defense and a quarterback in his prime. I think Seattle has a real good chance to go for the NFC.
All right, guys. We can leave the discussion there for right now. We are still expecting Tim Tebow. He will still be with us here on First Take. We're just giving him a few extra minutes to get ready for the camera, get ready for you guys, Stephen A. and Max. And we're going to talk about not only the game last night, we'll also talk about how we're going to possibly end up seeing Big Ten college football this season. Tim Tebow